Asterisk, picture this. You're on one of the biggest stages of your life, hyping up the crowd at the WNBA All-Star Game. And at that exact moment, 3 masked intruders break into your home. You're not even there, but when the police show up, they're not chasing the criminals. They're coming after you. That's exactly what happened to GloRilla. She was the victim, yet she's the one who got arrested. So the question is, who were the real culprits, and why did the police ignore them? GloRilla's latest legal trouble began with an exchange that sounded straight out of a crime drama, officers telling her to turn around while she insisted they had no proof, only to be told, "No, ma'am. I do." Now, the Memphis rap star is facing a serious charge that could bring her career to a screeching halt. Police say they found a large stash of marijuana and other controlled substances during a raid on her property. A discovery that could mean felony time. When added to her past DUI and reckless driving charges, the situation looks grim enough for fans to wonder if she ever perform again. But this isn't a typical rapper busted for hustling story. GloRilla wasn't caught dealing or cruising around with contraband. This entire mess started with a home invasion while she was hundreds of miles away, performing at the WNBA All-Star Weekend. As she lit up the stage, 3 masked intruders broke into her Forsyth County, Georgia, home, and by the time police arrived to investigate, the case had taken a bizarre and unexpected turn. Instead of zeroing in on the break-in, police started poking around GloRilla's home, and that's when they claimed to have found a stash in her bedroom. Rather than treating her as the victim of a crime, they hit her with felony possession charges and put her in cuffs. July 22, 2025. That's the day everything flipped. She had called for help, but instead of hunting down the burglars who actually broke in and stole from her, officers turned the spotlight on her, booking her like she was the one in the wrong. And all of this over a small amount of personal weed in a house she wasn't even in at the time. The price of freedom: $22,260 in bond money just to walk free after being treated like a suspect in her own home invasion. But Glo didn't take it lying down. Oh, she didn't just respond. GloRilla clapped back loud and clear on social media, and the internet couldn't get enough. On Twitter, she poured out her frustration. "My house got home invaded Saturday while I was in Indianapolis, performing for the WNBA All-Star Game, and instead of focusing on finding the suspects, they focus on some cannabis." The post exploded, racking up over 3.6 million views, because it was raw, direct, and undeniably true. But to really feel the weight of that moment, you have to rewind way before the platinum records, flashy chains, and sold-out shows. Back to when Gloria Hallelujah Woods was just a girl from South Memphis, where life wasn't about privilege, it was about survival. She grew up crammed into a small home with 9 siblings, 6 wild brothers, and 4 sisters right in the heart of one of the toughest neighborhoods in the South. In South Memphis, nothing came easy. Dinner wasn't promised, air mattresses doubled as luxury beds, and making it through the week felt like a victory. Yet even in the chaos, Gloria stood out. Her mama knew she was cut from a different cloth. That's why she gave her a name that demanded to be remembered: Hallelujah. While all her brothers carried the middle name Carmichael, and her sisters shared Nicole, Gloria's mama set her apart with something bold, something destined to stand out. And here's the twist most people never expect. If they only know GloRilla for her gritty street anthems, before she was shouting FNF and taking over the rap game, she was a church girl through and through. Not just a Sunday seat filler, either. She was front and center in the choir, belting out gospel staples like Amazing Grace and Encourage Yourself with a voice that was rich, soulful, and commanding. She wasn't just a rapper in the making, she was a natural-born vocalist. Every Sunday, no matter what the week had thrown at them, the whole family showed up to church. It was tradition, it was discipline, it was life. But like so many stories, high school flipped the script. The pews got swapped for late nights, booming speakers, and clouds of loud smoke. That gospel voice faded into the background, making room for a new sound: raw, unapologetic rap. And by early 2022, those seeds she planted in the chaos started to bloom, changing everything. When GloRilla teamed up with producer Hitkid, the result wasn't just another track, it was a cultural explosion. Their session birthed FNF, Let's Go, a song that hit the internet like a lightning strike. Not some throwaway freestyle or TikTok gimmick. It was pure, unfiltered energy that took over social media, climbed the Billboard Hot 100, and even earned a Grammy nomination. More than just a hit, FNF became a movement, a bold anthem for women ready to break free from dead-end relationships and low-energy partners. The word free in that hook wasn't just about relationship status. It was about self-worth, independence, and refusing to be defined by anyone else. Women everywhere connected with the message on a soul-deep level. GloRilla's path eventually crossed with Yo Gotti not in Memphis, but unexpectedly on a yacht. And that conversation would change everything, but as success rolled in, so did the drama. Hitkid went public with accusations that GloRilla and CMG were trying to take the rights to FNF and profit without including him. The very track that launched them into the spotlight had suddenly become the center of a messy high-stakes dispute, proving how quickly the music industry can turn from celebration to confrontation. It was the way. Yo Gotti spoke to her not like a rookie he could mold, but like an equal whose vision deserved respect. He understood her hustle, her roots, and the fact that she wasn't trying to be boxed into anyone's formula. That conversation wasn't about him taking over her career. It was about building something together. For GloRilla, that respect mattered more than the glitz or the dollar signs. She could see he wasn't selling her a dream, he was offering her a partnership. And when you come from where she comes from, you learn to tell the difference between someone who's genuine and someone running game. Signing with CMG wasn't just a career move, it was a power play. One that told the industry she wasn't here for crumbs, she was here to eat at the head of the table. But with that move came higher stakes. The bigger her platform grew, the louder the noise got: critics, haters, industry, politics, and whispers that not everyone in Memphis was happy to see her shine. And while most would have buckled under that kind of pressure, GloRilla kept moving like a chess player, always thinking 3 moves ahead. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. Recognition that she had just stepped into a situation where the game was already rigged against her. Her smile faded into that guarded expression every black person in America understands when dealing with authority. Stay calm, stay sharp, and don't give them an inch. The footage didn't show a wild night gone wrong. It showed tension, the unspoken power struggle that plays out in traffic stops across the country. And Glo handled it like she'd been here before. Measured words, steady voice, no sudden moves. But behind that composure was a storm, because she knew this wasn't just about her. It was about how quick the media would spin it. One mugshot and a headline could undo months of hard work, branding her as another reckless rapper instead of the calculated, business-minded woman she'd proven herself to be. In that moment, it wasn't just a traffic stop, it was a test of her image, her patience, and her ability to move in a world where winning still comes with a target on your back. And GloRilla, she wasn't about to let them write her story for her. She already knew this wasn't going to be fair. Fame wasn't her shield, it was a spotlight that made every move easier to scrutinize, and every misstep easier to weaponize. And here's where it turned from frustrating to flat-out disturbing. Even after she went through the field sobriety test, following instructions to the letter, the officer kept pushing the same narrative that she was failing. Anyone who's been paying attention knows those tests aren't foolproof. But the footage didn't show a reckless celebrity playing games. It showed a woman doing her best to cooperate, holding herself together while the situation tilted against her. Glo didn't waver from her stance. She kept saying she was innocent. That determination, that quiet defiance, came from the same place as her hustle in the studio. She'd been in rooms with execs who only wanted her for one viral hit. But when she played her unreleased tracks on that yacht, Gotti didn't just nod along, he locked in. He saw her for the artist she was, not just the headline she could be, but that arrest video. It stripped away the glamour. There was no stage, no beat, no adoring crowd, just a young woman, standing on the side of the road, realizing that no matter how far she climbed, the system could still pull her down. That night in 2024 wasn't just an arrest. It was a warning. Not just for GloRilla, but for everyone watching. That arrest was a wake-up call about how the system moves when young black artists start winning too loudly. It wasn't about helping someone through a rough patch, it felt like law enforcement was signaling they were watching, almost waiting for the next chance to pounce. Meanwhile, Glo's career was skyrocketing. She wasn't just trending, she was owning the charts. Her hit Tomorrow 2 with Cardi B wasn't just a song, it was a cultural moment, flooding playlists and pushing her name onto every major radar. Fans weren't only vibing with her music, they were calling her one of the most authentic voices in the game. But the brighter the spotlight, the heavier the shadows. More fame meant more eyes, more judgment, and more pressure. Much of it unfair. She was picked apart in headlines, interviews, and online chatter, often for things unrelated to her music. Offstage, she was hurting. A breakup left her so down she couldn't eat for weeks. The fame that once felt like a blessing began to feel like a burden, weighing on her mental health, trust, and peace. Still, she kept showing up, refusing to break. What made Glow different wasn't just her skill, it was her raw honesty. In an industry obsessed with perfection, she spoke openly about her struggles, her pain, and the moments that nearly broke her, proving that vulnerability can be as powerful as talent. That moment should have been nothing but a career high, a young rapper from Memphis crossing genres and working with gospel royalty. But instead of universal praise, GloRilla found herself in the crossfire of a culture clash. For some in the gospel community, having their most respected artists share a track with someone known for raw, street-centered rap felt like a line had been crossed. Social media lit up with debates. Was this a bold, beautiful example of breaking down barriers, or was it a disrespectful mix that blurred sacred and secular lines too much? Glow, though, didn't buckle under the noise. She explained the vision behind the song, saying it came from a place of love, faith, and unity, not exploitation. And if you looked past the drama, you could see exactly what she was trying to do. That faith belongs everywhere, even in spaces people least expect it. The pushback didn't stop her from promoting Glorious with full force, proving once again that she wasn't here to please everybody. She was here to tell her story her way. In a year packed with highs, lows, and headlines, GloRilla was making one thing clear: she wasn't just surviving the rap game, she was reshaping it. The energy in that arena was electric, lights flashing, bass thumping, every word she spit echoing back from a sea of voices. It should have been one of those untouchable moments artists dream of, the kind that lives forever in highlight reels. But just hours later, the high would come crashing down. By the time Glow stepped off stage, sirens and flashing lights were waiting to flip the script. Word spread fast she'd been taken into custody. The details were murky at first, a swirl of whispers and half-truths racing through social media, but one thing was clear: the timing couldn't have been worse. It was the kind of headline that could derail a career, the type of scandal that turns celebration into chaos overnight. And yet, even in that storm, GloRilla's presence didn't shrink. If anything, the moment seemed to set the stage for the next chapter of her story, one where resilience would matter more than the music itself. Back in Georgia, the glow of GloRilla's rising career was pierced by something far more sinister. While she was out of town performing, 3 masked intruders broke into her home, clearly knowing she wouldn't be there. It was a targeted invasion, calculated and cold. Thankfully, an armed family member happened to be inside and fired off shots, forcing the suspects to flee before anyone was physically harmed. But the psychological damage was immediate. Priceless jewelry was gone. Her family was left rattled, and the sanctuary of her home no longer felt safe. Imagine pouring your heart out on stage to thousands of screaming fans, only to find out your loved ones were facing terror back home. And yet, instead of focusing on catching the people who committed this violent break-in, the police turned their attention to GloRilla herself. Their reason? A small stash of weed tucked away in her bedroom closet. That became the priority, not the criminals who stormed her house, not the threat to her family's safety, not the stolen valuables. She was arrested for possession of a substance that's legal in over half the country and decriminalized in most of the rest. The insult was almost worse than the injury. To this day, no one has been charged for the home invasion, and the people who violated her space, traumatized her family, and stole her possessions are still out there, free to do it again. Meanwhile, GloRilla, the victim in all of this, is now the one facing felony charges that could dismantle everything she fought to build from the ground up. If that's not backwards, what is? She should have been protected, comforted, and assured justice. Instead, she was punished. The system did what it so often does: shift the spotlight away from the real criminals and shine it squarely on the wrong person. But the moment the story broke, the streets didn't stay quiet. Social media erupted in outrage, not just from her loyal fans but from people across the country who saw this for what it was: injustice in plain sight. This wasn't only about one artist getting tangled in the legal system, which about how America has a pattern of rewriting Black success stories into cautionary tales, flipping victims into suspects, while letting genuine threats roam free. And true to form, GloRilla didn't go silent, didn't hide behind a polished press statement. She spoke for herself directly, raw, and unfiltered. Her posts after the arrest cut deeper than any lyric. She revealed, "My house got home invaded Saturday while I was in Indianapolis performing for the WNBA All-Star Game, and instead of focusing on finding the suspects, they focus on some cannabis. The tweet reached over 3.6 million people, resonating with anyone who's ever felt the system's priorities twisted. And she didn't stop there. Her follow-up was even clearer. No, she wasn't busted. Yes, her house was robbed. End of story. 3. She wasn't even home. And then came the line that stopped everybody in their tracks. Long story short, my house gets home invaded, and I'm the only one that gets arrested. That was the mic drop. That was the shrug emoji moment that screamed frustration, disbelief, and the raw truth. Y'all wild for this. Now here's where the facts turn stomachs. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office got the call at 1:30 a.m. Burglary in progress at Glo's suburban Atlanta home. 3 suspects, armed and dangerous, were inside. But Glo wasn't even in Georgia. She was hundreds of miles away in Indianapolis, living her dream, performing at the WNBA All-Star Weekend. The real crime: home invasion and burglary. The real victims: Glo's family, who were in the house and had to defend themselves. The real criminals: 3 intruders who stole jewelry and bolted when confronted. And yet, instead of focusing on catching them, the cops flipped the script. They rolled out drones, K9 units, search warrants, not to hunt burglars, but to tear through GloRilla's personal space. Their big find: some weed in her closet, in the master bedroom, in her own house. And that's what they called significant. That's what they decided was worth arresting her for, not the people who actually broke in, not the ones who terrified her family. Instead, Glo's legal team, led by attorney Drew Finding, had to issue a statement spelling out just how absurd this was. Her family did exactly what anyone's supposed to do after a violent home invasion. They called the police. But rather than hunting down the real threat, law enforcement zeroed in on a small amount of weed they spotted in the chaos and ran with that. Let that sink in. No arrest warrants for the actual intruders, the ones who stormed her home, terrorized her loved ones, and made off with her jewelry. They're still out there, free as ever. Meanwhile, GloRilla, the victim, is staring down felony charges that could steal years of her life. This isn't just about cannabis. It's about something uglier. It's about a system that would rather criminalize a young, successful black woman than protect her. A system designed to tear down anyone who dares to win without their stamp of approval. And she's not the only one who sees it. The outrage has been loud and widespread. Artists, activists, fans, all asking the same questions. How is this justice? How is this protect and serve? Who's safer when the victim gets cuffed? But the most powerful response didn't come from a lawyer or a press release. It came straight from Glo herself. Through it all, felony charges looming, the media circling like vultures, and a justice system seemingly eager to tarnish her name, GloRilla stood her ground. She didn't retreat, cancel appearances, or let the pressure break her. Instead, she arrived at the FedEx Forum for her Glo bash like a queen, delivering the show her fans deserved and proving that no crooked system or trumped-up charge could dim her light. Known for speaking out and standing firm against injustice, GloRilla now finds herself at the center of a fight that's far bigger than her own reputation. Her situation reflects a troubling pattern. Time and again, when young, successful black creatives rise to high, the system finds ways to pull them back down, as if there's an unspoken limit to how much they're allowed to win. The charges against her aren't minor, they're serious felonies for marijuana and controlled substances, carrying the potential for real prison time. And even if she avoids incarceration, the damage could still be severe, from lost endorsements and canceled tours to restrictions on international travel that could stunt the growth of the empire she's been building. The cruelest twist of all: these charges didn't come from a drug bust, they came after she called the police for help during a home invasion, only to be treated as the criminal herself. GloRilla's journey from sleeping on air mattresses in South Memphis to becoming a self-made millionaire is the kind of inspiring rise that embodies the American dream. Until that same dream becomes a threat to the system, she turned struggle into strength, gave her community a voice to rally behind, and carved her own lane in hip-hop. But her story also shows how quickly that praise turns to punishment once success crosses a certain line. This isn't her first brush with unfair treatment, either. Back in April 2024, her DUI case wasn't just a routine traffic stop, it was another example of being treated like a suspect before being treated like a human. The constant scrutiny she's faced makes one thing painfully clear: her success has painted a target on her back. When her attorney, Drew Findling, called her recent arrest a disturbing window into law enforcement priorities, it wasn't just legal jargon, it was a moral reckoning. resonating with millions who've witnessed the same injustice unfold, over and over. Because this arrest isn't really about marijuana, it's about a broken system that criminalized a black woman for calling the police during her own robbery. As for what comes next, the legal process is crawling forward, and no one can predict exactly how this case will end. But one truth is already set in stone: GloRilla has already won in the way that matters most. She's proven her resilience, standing firm through public scrutiny, legal pressure, and the weight of a crooked system, all while still showing up for her fans, her city, and her purpose. Whether she beats the charges, whether justice is served, or whether the system once again fails someone it should have protected, her legacy is untouchable. GloRilla's imprint on hip-hop, on culture, and on the young people who see themselves in her story can't be erased. From a church choir soloist to a rap queen with global influence, her journey is living proof that you can rise, fight back, and still shine.